You finally did it. After years of telling yourself it was almost time, of writing the letter in your head on the commute home, of running the numbers, of imagining the conversation, you walked into that cabin and you put the letter on the desk and you said the sentence. And then something unexpected happened. Your manager did not seem surprised. They did not push back. They did not argue. They smiled, not in a way that was warm exactly, but in a way that was unmistakably composed. They asked you to give them 48 hours. They said they had been thinking about a few things for you. They said something that has stayed with you ever since. We really don't want to lose you. And 48 hours later, the offer arrived. The exact opportunity you had been quietly waiting for years. A title that finally matched what you had been doing. A number that finally matched what you had been worth. A direct line to leadership that had been silently denied to you for as long as you had been there. You sat with it that evening. Maybe you told your spouse or a close friend. You said the words you had not said out loud in months. Maybe this place has finally seen me. Tonight, I am going to tell you something that no one in your office is ever going to tell you. And I will tell you carefully, because it is one of the harder things to hear at this particular moment of your career. For years, you were not valued enough. The moment you tried to leave, you were valued exactly enough. Not a rupee more. Not a title higher. Just exactly enough. That is not a coincidence. That is a price tag. The price of keeping you was always known. The question is what your continued presence has actually just been bought for. Let me give you the single most important statistic in modern HR research, because once you have heard it, you cannot unhear it. The majority of professionals who accept counteroffers leave anyway, within 12 to 18 months. The numbers vary by study and by industry, but the direction is consistent and large. Many of those exits, when they come, are no longer voluntary. The professional did not leave for the next opportunity. The company quietly engineered the exit on its own timeline in the months after the counteroffer was accepted. So you have to ask the question this statistic is screaming. If most counteroffers fail, if the very thing they appear to prevent, they ultimately deliver, why are they offered at all? Because they were not built to prevent your exit. They were built to control its timing. Look at what your departure costs the company on the day you submit the letter. The cost of recruiting your replacement, weeks of interviews, signing bonuses, agency fees. The cost of the gap between your exit and your replacement start. The cost of handing over knowledge you carry that nobody else does. The disruption to a project that is mid-quarter. The optics of a person at your level leaving suddenly, which can quietly unsettle the people who report to you. Add all of this together, and the cost of losing you this week is significantly higher than the cost of losing you in 8 months. The counteroffer is not a renewal of the relationship. The counteroffer is the cheaper of two prices. And once you understand that, the strange features of the offer begin to make sense. Features you may have noticed and assumed were generosity, but are not. Notice how quickly the offer was prepared. 48 hours, sometimes less. Real promotions take weeks of approvals, calibration committees, budget sign-offs. Counteroffers move at a speed that should have told you, if you had been listening, that the budget for them existed already. It was not located when you resigned. It was unlocked. Notice how precisely the offer matched what you would have left for. Not slightly more. Not slightly less. Exactly enough to make the leaving feel irrational. That is not a coincidence either. That is a price arrived at by careful internal math. The company has, with sincere warmth, told you the lowest price at which you can be retained, and not 1 rupee above. Notice what was not in the offer. The reasons you wanted to leave. The manager who failed to defend you. The culture that ground you down. The trajectory that stalled. None of those were addressed. They could not be. They were never the budget item. They were the system itself. And notice, finally, what happened to you the moment you tendered that letter. Something filed. Quietly, in a way you cannot easily reverse. And to see what was filed, you have to step out of the building entirely, into a forest your ancestors lived in for over 1 million years. In primate field research, there is a phenomenon that has been documented across decades of observation. The roving male. The young or mid-ranking baboon who, often quietly, often slowly, begins to leave his troop. He drifts to the edges. He spends nights on the periphery. He weighs, in a way we cannot fully measure but which is real, the option of leaving for another troop. Sometimes he leaves and is gone. But sometimes, and this is the interesting case, he turns back. He is not chased back. He is not attacked. The troop has rituals for managing his return. He is allowed to re-enter. And then, in the months that follow, primatologists have observed something subtle but consistent. His position in the troop quietly decays. Not all at once. Not in a way he can confront. The coalition partners who used to invest in him invest a little less. He is included in fewer grooming exchanges. He is supported in fewer disputes. He is, in the language of the field, a marked individual. Not punished, just noted. Because the troop has now learned something it did not know before. He can leave. And a troop that has watched a member contemplate leaving, even once, does not invest in him the way it invests in members who have not. Coalition resources are finite. They flow toward those most likely to repay the investment with long-term presence. The roving male, whatever he does next, has revealed that he is not that. His position has not been destroyed. It has merely been quietly reclassified. Now look at what you did when you walked into that cabin. From the moment you handed over that letter, the most important fact about you inside that organization was no longer your competence, your output, or your potential. It was your mobility. You had revealed something the company did not previously know with certainty, that you could leave. That you were willing to. That, given the right pull from another direction, you would. The counteroffer that arrived 48 hours later was not an erasure of that information. It was a price paid in spite of it. You are now both a person they paid to keep and a person they know can be paid to leave. Those are the same fact, recorded twice. And the evolutionary psychologist William von Hippel has documented the deeper mechanism that makes both sides accept this strange situation as something else. He calls it shared self-deception. Powerful organizations and the people inside them both protect themselves from uncomfortable truths by quietly persuading themselves the truth is more flattering than it is. The company will sincerely believe it is now invested in you. You will sincerely believe the place has changed. Both convictions are honestly held. Both are wrong. The architecture remains exactly what it was, with one quiet new entry in the file. Now go back to those 48 hours. Slowly, with everything you now know. Within an hour of you leaving that cabin, your manager made 2 phone calls. The first was to his own manager. The second was to HR. Neither call was about you in the way you would imagine. The first call was about timing. Can we afford to lose her this quarter? The second was about budget. What band shift can I approve in 48 hours without going to committee? Both calls were brief and businesslike. Neither involved a discussion of your worth as a human being or as a contributor. The math had already been done. The calls were administrative. The next day, your manager looked at the team's calendar. 2 large deliverables were mid-flight. A senior client account had been quietly difficult. A peer of yours was already on extended leave. The cost of you leaving this week was, in the spreadsheet his finance partner sent him, approximately 3 times the cost of you staying for another 6 months at a slightly higher band. The decision was no longer a decision. It was the arithmetic. HR drafted the offer in a template they had used several times before, in some cases for people who left the company anyway within the year. They added warm language. They added a phrase about recognizing your unique contribution. They added a paragraph about renewed commitment. None of these phrases meant anything in the file. They were the courtesy layer. The financial structure underneath was a delay mechanism, costed for the value of the delay. And then the offer arrived in your inbox, warm, considered, almost personal. You read it that evening. You felt seen. You felt valued. You felt, perhaps for the first time in years, that the place had finally noticed you. But what was happening underneath, in the file the company keeps about you, was this. A new line had been added, not to your appraisal, but to a quieter database of organizational memory that runs alongside every formal record. The new line read, roughly, this individual has demonstrated active mobility. Retention has been purchased through Q3. Reevaluation of long-term investment is appropriate. You were warmer than ever in the offer letter. You were marked in the file the same week. So let us name it carefully, because the warmth of the moment deserves a name precise enough to survive it. The spreadsheet that produced the offer. The 48 hours that produced a budget that had always existed. The quiet line filed in the database. The marked baboon turning back to the troop. The shared self-deception on both sides. The purchased pause. A counteroffer engineered to delay a departure on the company's schedule rather than prevent it, by paying the minimum price required to retain the employee, while the system arranges, on its own terms, for their long-term reduction or eventual replacement. Sit with the word pause because it is precise. A pause is a small piece of time between 2 larger movements. It is not a stop. It is not a resolution. It is not a renewal. It is by its nature temporary, a held breath, after which something else begins. The counteroffer is not the company saying, "We have decided to keep you." The counteroffer is the company saying, "We have decided when to lose you, and it is not now." And purchased is the second precise word. Because something was bought in those 48 hours, even though it did not feel like a transaction. What was bought was time, the company's time, paid for with the company's money, calibrated against the company's risk. The thing that looked like a fresh investment in you was, in the spreadsheet, an investment in the company's own scheduling. And the moment you can name what was bought, the design loses its grip on you. Because every part of the counteroffer's seductive power depends on you reading it as a renewal of the relationship, not as a small purchase of administrative convenience. The instant you read it correctly, the warmth becomes information rather than verdict. The number on the page becomes a piece of data you can use, rather than a story you are inside. Here is what changes the moment you can read the counteroffer correctly. 5 things, and each one returns to you a piece of authority the offer was quietly trying to take. The first thing you get back is your perception of your own worth. Most of the seductive power of a counteroffer is that it answers a private question you have been carrying for years. Do they actually value me? And the size of the offer feels, in that moment, like the size of the answer. But the offer is not measuring your value. It is measuring your replacement cost. Those are completely different prices. A person can be enormously valuable to a system and cheap to replace. A person can be moderately valuable and expensive to replace. The counteroffer reflects the second variable, not the first. The instant you separate these two prices, the validation loses its grip, and your actual sense of your own worth, the one you carried into the cabin in the first place, returns to its proper place inside you, where it belongs. The second thing you get back is your reading of the timing. Every reason you wanted to leave will still be there in 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 6 months. The manager, the trajectory, the culture, the ceiling. The counteroffer does not address any of them. It cannot. They are not budget items. They are the architecture itself, and architecture is not adjusted by a bandshift letter. What the counteroffer adjusts is not the building. It is the day you walk out of it. From this episode on, you read every counteroffer with one quiet question underneath all the warmth. Did this fix the reasons, or only the schedule? Almost always, the answer is the second. The third thing you get back is the most useful, and the most often missed. The counteroffer has just handed you, for free, one of the most valuable pieces of professional information you will ever receive about your current employer, the price they could always have paid you. That number existed before you tendered the letter. They had always known it. They had always chosen not to deploy it. What the counteroffer reveals is not what they think of you now. It is what they have been quietly choosing to underpay you by for years. Whatever you decide to do next, walk or stay, you now know that number with absolute certainty. It belongs to you. It cannot be taken back. It will inform every salary conversation and every offer you negotiate for the rest of your career. The fourth thing you get back is one of the strongest signals you will ever send. Most professionals, in the warm and flattering moment of a counteroffer, return to the herd. Their position quietly decays over the next year. They leave anyway, on worse terms, with no clean exit story, and they carry the question of what would have happened if they had walked through the rest of their career. You can be the rare one who, having received the offer, accepts the information it contains, thanks the company politely, and walks anyway. The exit that follows a refused counteroffer is one of the cleanest career, moves a professional can make. It tells your old company that you read the offer correctly. It tells your new company that you cannot be rebought. It tells your own nervous system, with finality, that you can do the harder of the two things. That signal carries forward into every future moment of negotiation you will ever stand inside. And the fifth thing you get back is the largest. You inherit a permanent reading lens. From this episode on, you can read every future moment of sudden value the same way. The surprise promotion, just as you are getting recruiter calls. The unexpected inclusion in strategy, just after you took a coffee with a competitor. The sudden mentor who appears the week you updated your LinkedIn. The bonus that arrives the day after the team learned someone above you was poached. These are not random. They are all structurally purchased pauses, small payments by a system to slow a movement it has detected in you. Some of them are worth accepting. Many of them are not. None of them are what they appear to be on the surface. And once you can see them coming, the warmth of each one becomes useful information instead of overwhelming feeling. You can sit inside the flattery without being inside the design. Most professionals, given a counteroffer, accept it. They are inside the warmest, most flattering, most validating moment of their entire career, and they cannot read it. That is not weakness. That is the design working exactly as it was built to work, on an evolved primate nervous system that was never given the manual. They will discover, somewhere between months 12 and 18, that they have been inside a window the system has been managing all along. They will leave anyway, often involuntarily, often on worse terms, often carrying a quiet, unnamed disappointment for the rest of their career. You are not in that group anymore. As of tonight, you are in a much smaller one, the people who can sit inside the warmth of a counteroffer with a clear head. You may still choose to accept. You may choose to walk. Either decision can be the right one for your life. What you will never do again is mistake the warmth for the verdict, or the offer for the system. You will read the offer for what it is. And then you will decide on your own terms, on your own clock, with your own eyes open. The price of keeping you was always known. Now the price of being kept is finally yours to set. Next time, the phone rings, but this time the news is good. Genuinely good. You are being promoted. The title is real. The pay is real. The team you will lead is real. You walk into the next chapter of your career feeling, for the first time in years, that the system has finally seen you and rewarded you the way it should have all along. You may have just been moved into the most carefully designed cage in modern corporate life. A position that looks from every angle like elevation and functions structurally as containment. The cage has a name. It has a pattern. It has been built around the most ambitious professionals in every industry on Earth, for decades, by people who would never describe what they were doing as building a cage. That episode is next.